If you're looking for a small, portable, personal air conditioning unit, then this is it. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. I have this multifunctional air cooler. It's got a family on the back here, so you know it's good. I'm going to open this up here because it's kind of interesting, and it's not an air conditioner like you might think of as an air conditioner. Air conditioners need to use like refrigerant, and that refrigerant is compressed and then released, and so the release of the pressure makes the coils cool off, and then it can blow air over those coils, but then it creates hot air when that refrigerant is compressed, and it exhausts that usually out of the house somewhere, you know, in a window air conditioner, just exhausts it outside. In your home, it exhausts it through your furnace vent, those types of things. And so a personal air conditioner doesn't really exist because something like this that might sit on the floor at your feet, in your desk, on your nightstand, something like that needs to exhaust it. So this is a little bit different, but it should provide a lot of cooling for you. Now, I think this thing is actually sometimes referred to as a swamp cooler. Now, I want to tell you a little story. The first time I experienced a swamp cooler was out in Colorado. I was staying with my cousin, and she doesn't even have an air conditioning unit. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so hot. And she's like, oh, let me turn on the swamp cooler. And it seemed like there was air conditioning in the house, but on the top of their house, they have a swamp cooler, basically these filters that get covered in water, and then they blow air into the house through those filters. And that air that is being drawn through these water-filled filters gets cooled off. And so that cool air comes in the house. I thought it was great. I was like, leave that sucker on. I don't care if it's an air conditioner or a swamp cooler. It's cooling me down. So this thing is very similar. Now, the reason I picked up this one is one, because it had a price point that this guy could afford, and two, because this thing runs on water essentially to create that cooling effect. This one had one of the largest capacities for water than any of the other ones that I was looking at, and so I thought this one might just run longer than a bunch of the other ones. All right, so what we have here is the little cooler itself. We also have a little remote control, which I actually like because, especially for me, the reason I got this is because my office has a big window and it gets really hot. When it's hot outside, my office is maybe 4 or 5 degrees warmer than the rest of the house. So I like the remote control here. Looks like I can control the fan speed, and what I might be able to do is have this at my feet and just control it without having to bend down. The other thing that you get here is a power cord, because you're going to need some power coming into this thing. Now, I will say it's a USB to a USB-C cable right there. That's actually kind of surprising. I thought it might actually be like your regular power cord plugging into an outlet. So the nice thing about this is you could potentially run it off a power bank, something like that, if you're going camping or if you're on the road or sleeping in your car. You know, kind of an interesting little option for you. Now, this thing is pretty big. It's kind of like a very small trash can, like a little R2-D2 unit. I'd say it stands about a foot tall, maybe 13, 14 inches, and it's pretty square-ish. Obviously, it's rounded here, but I would say this is maybe about 7.5, 8 inches wide on this side here. We also have this Naugahyde strap here, so it should be easy to carry around. And what you can see here is that mesh inside there, and I think that mesh will get soaked with water as you put water in there. You can see it kind of, that honeycomb in there, right? It looks like it might be some sort of plastic. Maybe it's just metal. Maybe the water just cascades down it. And then what you can see better here is we have a fan blade, and I'm assuming it will just push the air over the water on the little blades there, and that will cool down the air that passes through there. And the reason that that does that is because I think it's an endothermic reaction, if I recall. So an exothermic reaction is a reaction of things that produces energy, produces heat, but an endothermic reaction, someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, requires energy to work. And what ends up happening is that air passing over water creates evaporation, and that evaporation needs heat to happen. And so while that is evaporating, it's actually drawing the heat to do that, and the air that gets passed through is removed of heat and comes out cooler. So it's a pretty trick little science experiment in some ways. You can see we can adjust the airflow there, and then we also get some buttons up here. It looks like we get fan speed. We also get a timer, 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hours, so you don't have to worry about this thing running all the time. Looks like we have a light button here, and then we can also create a rainstorm right there. Power plug is right there on this side. Now, I do want to show you how to open this thing up and use it. What we have to do here is open up the top. All right, so I'm going to pull that off, and now we have this reservoir. Like I said, I think a lot of these reservoirs were 700 milliliters. I thought this one was like 1,000 milliliters, so I think it's supposed to be a little bit bigger. You can see how it works there. We have a little hole in there where it will drain through, right? So what I want to do here is I want to put it down. I want to go ahead and get this sucker plugged in and powered up. Now that I've got it plugged in, we do have LED lights up here. Before I fill it up, I also want to show you that that mesh goes all the way into this little tray at the bottom. So what I think happens here is that there will be some condensation and will drip down here, and then the frame here, that mesh frame, will absorb that and kind of recycle it back up to the top. So there's no way that I see that you can empty this out. So the condensation that gets in there, I think, will be reused as coolant automatically. All right, now I'm gonna pour some water in the top here, and what I realize is that this is actually bigger than I thought. It's actually 1400 milliliters, so it's actually almost twice the size of some of these other personal swamp coolers. So I'm gonna fill it up pretty much to the top there. All right, glug glug. I'm going to go ahead and close up the top now. I'm really curious to see if this works. I mean, it's one of these things that in theory it should work, but it might not work as well as I hope. So it might also take a little time for it to work here, because I think the water is going to have to drip down. So what I want to do now is go ahead and pull the plastic out here so we activate to the remote here, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit this on button. Ooh, I see a little green LED light coming on there, and you can see that the fan is working. Now, the fan itself is something that will probably help make you feel a little bit cooler. And I don't know if you can hear that, but it's actually fairly quiet, but I can hear and feel it buzzing. The other thing that this will do is it will shut off itself from the evaporative mode, the air cooling mode, to a regular fan mode once the water runs out, which is actually pretty nice. So I think you can toggle between those two modes right up here. But I do want that working, and I'm going to go ahead and raise the fan up here as much as possible. And you can also control the lights here, all right? So if you don't want the lights or you want a different color, you can kind of toggle through there. But I kind of like them. And it kind of dances where the water is moving around up there. All right. So I wonder how long this is going to take to start feeling cool. But I tell you what, dude, I've had this on for maybe all of 60 seconds, maybe a minute and a half, and that is noticeably cooler than the air that is just surrounding me, my ambient air. I mean, that is definitely cooler than a minute ago when the fan just came on and was blowing that room temperature air over me. It felt good, but it didn't feel cool, and this feels cool. And I tell you what, if you look at the lights up here, they're also cool colors. Man, dude, that feels awesome. Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what, it's room temperature in here right now, 74, 75 degrees. It's, you know, pretty comfortable. But this is blowing on me cold enough where it's a little uncomfortable. It's so cold. I love it, man. And for me, sitting in my office, like I said, where it's 4 or 5 degrees warmer than the rest of the house, especially on hot, sunny days like today, I think this is gonna make all the difference in the world. I have used standalone box fans. I've even used a ceiling fan. Having air move over your body on a hot day in a hot room definitely feels better than stagnant air, but it's not cool air. And this is moving air, and it's cool, and it's kind of giving me the chills. I'm kind of getting goosebumps here. Dude, this thing rocks. I can't actually see the water anywhere, so I don't know if it's just cooling that honeycomb mesh down or something, but man, dude, this works. I'm totally stoked. I was not expecting it to work this quickly or feel this good, but I'm super excited that I've got this, because I think in the future, this is going to be really helpful for me. I can just fill it with water when it gets low. I can plug it in, turn it on, hit the remote, be comfortable at work, be more productive at work, be happier, and live a little better. So if you want to pick up your own personal air conditioning unit, swamp cooler, if you will, I'll put a link to this one in the description below. I'm stoked! Peter Von Panda, out.
We can discover more and explore so much deeper. We can live better than ever faced to be.